My name is Rebecca Lawson. I'm 34 years old. And this is the story of how having my cousin's wedding invitation ripped out of my hand in front of 300 guests turned into the best financial audit of my life. I was standing just inside the marble entrance of the country club, wearing the emerald silk dress I'd bought in Milan after closing my first 8-figure deal. The place cards were gold foiled. The string quartet was playing Vivaldi, and the ice sculpture was already sweating under the chandeliers. I had personally paid for every single one of those details. Not that anyone knew. Then Uncle Richard spotted me. "Who let the charity case in?" he announced, loud enough for the entire receiving line to hear. "Security. Get this woman out before she embarrasses us." Aunt Linda pretended to study her manicure. My cousin Brooke, the bride, smirked into her champagne flute. My own parents suddenly found something fascinating on the opposite wall. The security guard, a kid who couldn't have been older than 22, hesitated with his hand half raised, cheeks burning red. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply turned around, walked back through the lobby, and got into my car. Only after the valet closed the door did I let my hands shake. By the time I reached my house 30 minutes later, I had already reversed $38,000 in venue deposits, canceled the $22,000 floral contract, and voided the $180,000 that was quietly covering the open bar, the string quartet, the off-season peonies flown in from New Zealand, and the honeymoon villa in Bora Bora that Brooke had bragged about for 8 straight months. My phone exploded. Mom, Dad, Brooke, Richard. Numbers I didn't recognize. Then came the pounding on my front door. Through the peephole, I saw Brooke's fiancé, Mason, tie askew, face the color of Merlot. "Open the door, Rebecca. The venue just locked us out. They said the final payment bounced. Fix it. Now." I leaned against the frame, calm as winter glass. "That's strange," I said through the wood. "Sounds like someone forgot whose company actually signed the contracts." He blinked twice. "You're doing this because they asked you to leave?" "No," I answered. "I'm doing this because they forgot the first rule of biting the hand that feeds you. Make sure that hand isn't the one holding the credit card, the vendor contracts, and the cancellation clauses." He tried the handle. Locked. Of course it was locked. I held up the black leather binder I'd kept in my office safe for 4 years. Every receipt, every wire transfer, every family emergency that somehow always turned into a cruise, a Rolex, or a down payment on a Porsche. 4 years ago, after I paid off Uncle Richard's second mortgage, and he still introduced me as the niece who does something with computers, I started preparing. I called it the contingency file. Inside were LLC agreements, payment schedules, and revocation rights signed by me and only me. Mason's voice dropped to a hiss. "They're your family." "They called me a charity case in front of the entire zip code," I said. "Funny how fast charity dries up when the checks stop clearing." He left muttering about lawyers. He wouldn't need one. I already had 3. By morning, I had 47 new emails. My mother's was my favorite. "We were just joking, sweetie. You've always been so sensitive. Can we talk?" Attached was a forwarded invoice from the country club for $126,000, now due immediately. I forwarded it to my assistant with one line: "Let them sue the LLC. Good luck finding assets." The next surprise came from Harold, my parents' accountant of 30 years. He emailed asking for a call about discrepancies in the Lake Tahoe cabin they'd been calling their retirement home. Turns out the deed was in the name of Lawson Holdings, LLC, my company. The one they told their friends was a generous gift from Dad's old investment club. Harold's voice actually shook. Rebecca, have your parents been declaring that property as a gift on their taxes? They had. For 6 years, with no gift tax return ever filed. I thanked Harold, called my attorney Lauren, and by noon the next day we had a quiet title action ready to file, plus a very polite letter to the IRS about potential fraud. 48 hours later, the process server delivered the packet to my parents' house, while they were still trying to explain to the country club why their platinum card had been declined. That night, my mother left a 6-minute voicemail that swung between tears and threats. The last line stuck with me. If you do this, people will talk. The church, the neighbors, the club. Think about your father's reputation. I saved the message. Evidence is evidence. A week later, Lauren walked into my office carrying a banker's box. You want the good news or the better news? Good, I said. We now own the Tahoe cabin, free and clear. Your parents have 30 days to vacate or pay fair market rent. And the better? The family trust you've been topping off since 2016, they've withdrawn $1.4 million over 10 years, labeled as medical, education, or home maintenance. We have receipts for jewelry, a Tesla, and a very suspicious series of transfers to Brooke's Venmo. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in a decade. We filed for surcharge and removal of trustee. My father was the trustee of a trust that no longer had a single dollar left in it. That's when the masks came off completely. Brooke posted a 10-slide Instagram story about toxic relatives who only care about money, while literally standing in the kitchen I'd paid to remodel. Richard showed up at my office unannounced, hat in hand, eyes red. You've made your point, he said. How much to make this go away? I slid the blank check he offered back across my desk. This was never about your money, Uncle Richard. It was about mine. The court date was set for late October. The night before, Brooke direct messaged me for the first time since the wedding disaster. If you walk into that courtroom tomorrow, we are done forever. I screenshot it, added it to the exhibit list, and went to bed. The hearing was quiet, clinical, devastating. Lauren projected 10 years of bank statements on the screen. The judge asked my father one question. Did you or did you not represent to this court that these withdrawals were for legitimate trust purposes? He couldn't look at me when he answered. I thought they were family expenses. The judge's gavel wasn't dramatic. It didn't need to be. Judgment. Full restitution of $1.4 million plus interest. Transfer of the Tahoe cabin to me outright. Removal of my parents as trustees of any entity I'd ever funded. And a permanent injunction against contacting me for financial assistance. They didn't speak to me when it was over. They simply walked out into the hallway where the cousins who'd laughed loudest at the wedding now stared at their shoes. 3 months later, the cabin sold for $4.8 million. I kept enough to cover taxes and legal fees, then started the Lawson First Gen Fund. Full-ride scholarships for women paying their own way through school, no family co-signers allowed. I still get the occasional text from an unknown number. You're destroying the family. We didn't mean it. You've changed. I never reply. Some conversations aren't worth the characters. The last thing that arrived was a plain white envelope slid under my door. Inside was a single photograph from the wedding reception. Everyone in champagne silks, raising a toast under crystal chandeliers. In the far left corner, slightly out of focus, you can see me walking away. On the back, in Brooke's perfect cursive, "This is the moment you ruined everything." I carried the photo to my office, fed it into the shredder, and watched the pieces flutter down like expensive confetti. No, Brooke, That was the moment